welcome back to this episode of Leading Through Unprecedented Times. Here we go again. I'm Tom Murray, your host, and ecstatic for this third episode of Season 7 with the one and only Hamish Brewer. Hamish, my friend, how are you, my man? It is good to see you halfway around the world today. Awesome to see you. How you doing, my friend?
That's right, Tom. You know what, man? I'm good, man. I'm down here in New Zealand visiting and staying with family and friends and soaking up the summer. That's right. I am kind of in the future as we're recording. We joked before coming on, man, if I could throw the lottery numbers at you, I would. I'd probably throw them at every single teacher I could and spread that wealth. You know what I'm saying? But you know what, Tom? Life is good. I am good. It's Christmas time. It's the season to, enjoy fellowship and coming together with family and friends and just reuniting around all that is good. So life is good. I'm excited to be talking to you. I'm excited to be on this podcast. I don't do podcasts, so this is a big deal, brother. So I hope I don't screw it up. I tend to stay away, but hopefully we drop some heat for everybody listening.
Absolutely. Well, it's been such an honor to get connected with you over the last couple of years. And I watched your work as an incredible principal, highlighted all over the world and for years, and finally got the opportunity to connect. And what an honor that has been. So I'm sure many of our listeners have heard you speak or have seen you at conferences, but share a little bit of your story, of your trajectory, and up to now you're speaking, you're working with districts across the world, truly. But work us through a little bit of your trajectory and then your journey as a principal and what that looked like.
Yeah, man, I've been blessed, man. I've been really fortunate and lived a pretty full life in education and outside of it. You know, I started out down here in Aotearoa, down here in New Zealand as a teacher back in the late 90s. I joke I started out wanting to be a fifth grade teacher, ended up being a kindergarten teacher and didn't know what the hell I was doing. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me, man, especially teaching kindergarten and learning to teach reading and writing the right way. So I was really fortunate, really blessed to be able to do that. And then I went backpacking as all Kiwis do. New Zealanders, we love to throw a backpack on. We hit the road with all that we can carry, and that's about it, and a few dollars in our pocket. Usually spent on beverages, not on food, but we go out and see the world. And so I went through Southeast Asia, climbed through Southeast Asia, and I thought, well, why not if I do this? Why not if I teach and travel? And I hit the U.S., ended up on the East Coast, and ended up teaching in just south of D.C. in Fredericksburg, Northern Virginia, D.C. area. And from there, my career took off. You know, I was a very natural progression to becoming a school leader. Growing up through the years and even in my teaching, I was just naturally a leader. People leaned into that. I leaned back into it. You don't need a title to lead, bro. You can be a leader with your actions, with your words, the way you lift people up, the way you nurture them, the way you care for them, and most importantly, the way you listen to them, bro. Just listening. You know, great leadership is about simply listening at times, you know. So leadership just kept coming. Became an assistant principal in Prince William County public schools in Virginia. Very fortunate to have spent most of my career there, and then became a school principal. I've done all my work in Title I, school improvement. I was that kid. I was that Title I kid. I know my lane. I think I'm very proud of that. You know, like sometimes we jump lanes or we try to be a master of everything and end up being a master of none. And I leaned into Title I. It's what I know. It's who I am. It's what I am. And became a turnaround principal, turning around and growing a number of schools, both at the secondary and the elementary. And over time, what happened, the word got out. I was pretty early on social media back in the day. And, people got to know us early. You start winning awards. You start not just the awards, but most importantly, you start getting results. I mean, results matter, man. It's real talk, real work right there. And we got results at both ends and significant results, really, when you look back. And the trajectory just keeps going. And then from there, ended up in a couple of movies and a doc series. And here we are today, Tom, with the opportunity to meet so many amazing people and to lean in and help support them and lift them up.
Yeah, it was every time I'm with you, I get fired up. I don't know. Every time I hear you speak or every time I just listen to you talk, I get fired up. And I was thinking about a time that you and I, not too long ago, we're walking down a street and you had made a connection to your own schooling with part of the way you see the world and then also the way you lead and just some experiences you had growing up to your leadership. Tie for our audience together a little bit about just kind of where you had been in life, some personal pieces to why you then see leadership the way you do and how you value it the way you do, because there's some of your own pieces growing up to now how you impact the world with it.
Yeah, Tom, it had a heavy influence on me. Looking back, growing up around a lot of alcohol, domestic violence, poverty, and what have you, and the fact that I failed my high school exams twice. My mother left me. I went through went through a lot of traumatic things, and that's the PG version of it, I say. But it really laid the foundation for who I am today and how you serve people and how you see people and how you greet people and you meet them right where they are, man. Today's day and age, man, leadership is about understanding that it's more normal than not today that we're just trying to keep the lights on and keep food on the table. It's just the reality of the world we're living in. And that really served me in terms of, I used to talk a lot about, I failed high school, but in some respects, I think, did high school really fail me in the end, based on the lens that I look through and how we service a great many kids and how we take in a great many kids. And so that really affected me as a leader, as a teacher. It affected me in terms of the opportunities and possibilities and pathways that we look to provide kids. I was one of those guys, man. I was on that bandwagon of everybody's got to go to college. But, while that's nice and I'd love it to happen, it's really, the reality is it's about what are we doing to provide opportunities and pathways for our kids to be able to excel later in life. And I think leadership's about starting to take a real long look at what is it that's the outcome, like you get into these portraits of a graduate and all this stuff. But I think the world has moved and is moving exponentially faster than it's ever moved before. And education struggles to keep up at the best of times. And, I'm wondering if it's more about providing skill set today, enabling curiosity and creativity, because the landscape's not built yet, really. I mean, look at what happened in the last 6 months in AI. If you take the last 6 to 12 months of AI and that impact that it's having on the world, jobs, I mean, we got jobs that are just not going to be there anymore because AI at a click of a button will take care of it, So why do I need to tell a kid to be an architect when I can plug it into a computer and it'll bang it out, right? Like, there's all these things happening, and so I wonder if the lens is starting to be, what is it that we're providing to help people become successful in society, become successful in life with their skill set and opportunities and pathways.
Yeah, so well said. You spend a lot of time working with leadership, and you've already mentioned leadership multiple times naturally without me even throwing it your way. You're also somebody that gets a lot of big stages and a lot of variety of conferences. So let me put you on a stage right now in front of principals and superintendents and our incredible audience here at Future Ready. You're standing on that stage and you're about to talk leadership with them. What are some core tenets of leadership that you'd love to you would address with them, that you work with them on, that you think that the most important, the most effective principals, the most effective superintendents, it's core to who they are? What are some of those aspects that you talk about?
Yeah, I lean into the people, bro. We have a famous saying down here in New Zealand: what is the most important thing in the world? It's he tangata, it's he tangata, it's he tangata. It's the people, it's the people, it's the people. I think a lot of people used to look at me like, that dude's out of the box, he's rocket science, he's doing something crazy, I can't be like that. But really, when you boil it down to the real secret ingredients, it's about people, man. Yeah, one of my favorite lines is, you can't serve somebody you think you're better than. I mean, just let that sink and hit for a minute. That's one of my core mic drops of the moment, is you can't serve somebody you think you're better than. And leadership is about finding your tribe, finding your people, finding the people that lift you up and make you better. And if they don't lift you up and they don't make you better, time to cut them loose, baby. Cut them loose. You don't need those people in your life. And so one of the most important lessons that I've learned over the years in leadership is the ability to listen, to understand, and not listen to respond. A lot of the time, leaders will have the answers, or they'll be sitting in a conversation and you already know the outcome, you know where it's going, which is kind of sad in some respects, but you're well planned, prepared, and ready to execute. But at the end of the day, if you are not listening to understand, it's not authentic. It's not. There's no feeling or heart or soul in that, and it comes across as disingenuous. And I think leadership is about taking away that disingenuousness, and because leadership's not just about standing right in front; it's about walking right alongside. Some of the time, there's times where, as a leader, you got to make a hard decision, you got to live with it, and you got to roll with it. I get it. But at the same time, the more that you can provide and advocate and amplify the voice of the people around you, the more success you'll have. I remember when I started out as a young leader, Tom, brand new, man, I thought I was a hot dog, gunslinging leader, bro. Thought I had all the answers. And then all of a sudden you sit in that seat for the first time, you're like, oh shit, it's on me now. Like the cavalry ain't coming. You are the cavalry, right? And what I come to realize is once I lift my ego at the door, we leave our ego at the door. The answer's actually in the room. So many of the right answers, best answers are actually in the room. And so once I figured that out as a leader and I leaned into that and I amplified their voice and advocated for them, my trajectory of my success took off. And in some respects, I learned it from experiences I had years ago, learning from principles that I loved, principles I didn't love. You can learn something from everybody. And I remember watching one principal in particular, and the principal would often take or claim the work of what others had done. And I swore I'd never do that, because you see how it tears people down, you see how it makes them feel, and you see how it leaves them. And I always thought, you know what, I'll never do that. And so I've tried my hardest never to do that. I've tried to celebrate and reward those that have done the work along the way, because ultimately, as a leader, you still look good because you enabled and it created an environment for that success to happen. And so those are some really transformational moments as a leader. And I think never forgetting that you have a platform, especially in schools. Educational leaders sometimes forget that they have a platform. They have an opportunity where they are the main event. You're the main event. You're the main event for your community, for what's happening in that community. You're on the tip of every important conversation that takes place in a home, outside of a home. And so there's a great responsibility to that legacy and that torch that you carry when you do the work that you get to do each and every day. Your words matter. Your words matter. So there's some of it, man. Yeah.
I'm loving that. You were hitting me between the eyes on the notion of listening to respond versus listening to understand. And, I'll keep it real and I'll be vulnerable. I think I didn't learn that until my 40s, and I'm in my 40s. And so it took a long time for me to realize that. And I don't know if as a school and district leader, if I was always the best at that. And part of it is I'm always willing to jump in. I'm always willing to offer an idea, always offer a suggestion. All right, well, let's fix the problem. Here we go. And when I realized that I was doing as many times, I may not have fully grasped the situation or what was needed because I was already formulating my response, or I silenced somebody else in the room that had a great idea that never got to speak up because I jumped in yet again with something like that. And I think as leadership, I love that really truly listening to understanding that student, understanding that parent that's really upset, but there's a reason they're really upset, right? They love their kid, and maybe it's not the greatest scenario, but are we truly listening to understand? One of the things I can picture, my very first, I think, time I ever saw you on a map, I think I was watching one of the movies that you were in, one of the pieces, and I saw people rallying around you in a gym, and you were breaking something out, and I saw you were getting people fired up. And when I now I've gotten to know you and I'm proud to call you a good friend, you're truly one of the most authentic people that I've ever met, in all honesty. But your ability to build culture with the people that you were at, the ability for leaders and the need for leaders to create environments where people want to be, where they feel supported, but also challenged at the same time, which also, by the way, means we have high expectations, not a party all the time, but that you were able to push people forward, but at the same time, build this authentic culture. What advice do you have for school and district leaders that sometimes they're feeling like we're just trying to keep our head above water, but we've got to be really intentional about creating environments where our kids can thrive and our staff can thrive? What does that look like? How did you work to do that and ultimately get featured in all the pieces that you were because you were doing it well?
Yeah, Tom, that's a great question, man. I mean, how do we push people forward and get results and do the work and do the hard work, et cetera, without crushing people, especially in the environment we're in today and what have you. I mean, I get it, man. I think one of the things that I was able to do well was I was able to help people feel like they had ownership. They were a participant in the outcome. I will tell you that over the years, the way I interviewed was part of this too, like interviewing people. You're basically telling them everything they need to know so they can say no. There should be no surprises. Like, I'm a PLC guy. If you look at me, you might not know that, but PLC, CLTs, whatever you want to call them, I absolutely loved, man, because I don't think we should be throwing darts at the dartboard without knowing what the bullseye is. I believe we should be able to hit the bullseye every single time with the ability to prepare, and execute an outstanding instructional program each and every time. But nobody wants to be a part of something that they don't feel a part of. People want to feel a part of something. They want to be a part of the journey. They want to be a part of the movement. Those things are really important to them, especially the generation of educators coming through today. Understanding that while money is important, it's not the sole factor. People want to feel like they're going to work to be a part of something special, that they're part of change, part of hope and opportunity. And so, really, that's what I tried to motivate people on, that we could do extremely hard work at extremely high level, but also enjoy it.
So, Hamish, thank you so much for sharing those insights. Incredible insights for sure for leadership. But I do want to give a shout out to your book, which is incredible. And thank you for the copy of that with Relentless. And, it's a book that you've used to inspire, to encourage, but also to lovingly challenge folks to keep that moving forward, right? Continue to work for kids. Give us a couple of the core messages that maybe you haven't hit so much on so far in the podcast that come out of Relentless.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Relentless was an exciting project that I really didn't see coming. And quite frankly, I tried to stay clear of for the longest time. I refused to write a book. And sure enough, man, enough people kept asking. I was like, you know what? I'll do it, but I'll write something incredibly different as best I could. I write it with my voice, with my thoughts, and really tried to do something really different. And you know what? I've been really fortunate, really lucky. It stood the test of time. Even today, it's still a great selling book, I think, because of the messages in it and the opportunities that are in it. Some interesting things from Relentless that people don't see coming. There's a chapter from Lessons from the Fire Truck, bro. Lessons from the Fire Truck. People don't see that part of my journey or career as a leader, as a fireman in the fire service. Spending time working at one of the busiest volunteer fire departments on the Eastern Seaboard. We used to run hundreds and thousands of calls each and every day. And during that period of my life, I actually broke my back. We were in a pretty bad accident and ended up with 6 pins in my back, and I should have been dead or paralyzed as we were responding to a call. And so very fortunate that I get to keep doing what I'm doing each and every day since that incident. But, something that one of the key parts of that chapter is one of the most boring things and unsexy things that you get to do as a fireman is pull hose. You got to pull hose. You got to practice pulling hose because it's one of the most important things that you do in terms of going to rescue someone or put the fire out. And you can save minutes and seconds, valuable minutes and seconds in saving a life when you pull the hose the right way. But what happens is you got to re-rack that hose. So now you're re-racking 1,000 feet, 500 feet of hose that you pulled out in a matter of seconds, and then you repeat, then you repeat, then you repeat, and you repeat. And what it really taught me, and I really leaned into this with my leadership as an educator, is that it's about process. It's about doing those little things well each and every day. That in schools, where we fall down is we lose sight and we don't take care of sometimes the little things that we need to do well. The things that are unsexy, the things that don't feel cool, they're not the big splash plays as I've talked about. It's like little things like handwriting. I believe we should still be doing handwriting each and every day. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It can be as simple as big A, little a, that ant ate an apple. Boom, we're out. But for me, I saw it as part of the fluency of literacy, right? And it's these little things done well each and every day that lead us up to success for the ultimate goal. Because if you haven't prepared and you haven't planned, you can't execute, right? You can't have execution. And I have an equation that says something like effort plus execution equals performance. And if you don't have effort, you don't have belief. If you don't have execution, you don't have understanding, and they have to go hand in hand together to have performance. And so that was a great chapter in there. And obviously, I'm not sure if we're going to talk about it down the track, but skateboarding has been a huge part of my life and a huge part of my work. And from skateboarding in the hallways to the flat brim hats to the J's, and just, I look back now over the years and I feel pretty pretty cool that I was maybe able to play a small influence in the culture of what has happened across America and across the world in schools over the last decade or so, because I broke some barriers with tattoos and skateboards and flat brimmed hats and just meeting kids where they're at. But the whole skateboarding thing, I think it's understanding and knowing that people can be anything they dreamed of being, that nobody should be judged based on the hobbies, interests, and sports and music they listen to. The love affair that they have for the things they love should not be judged. Judgment hurts. And so those the same people that we called punk kids, naughty kids, as skateboarders, that same kid can be an Olympian today. And so imagine if we believed in every kid that they had the opportunity to be an Olympian every day. How good would schools be? How good would school be? And then, I'm very loud and I'm very proud, and I talk very loudly about infusing love in the work that we do each and every day in our schools and communities. And there's no mountain you can't climb. There's no hurdle you can't overcome when you make love the center of the work. And so that chapter based on love and infusing love, and people are like, well, I'm not allowed to say love. And you know what? Well, I want everybody saying they love each other. I get it. You got to make love come out of you or feel or exude from you in your way. You got to make it special to you. But every kid deserves the right to feel loved each and every day.
Love that. And I don't want to slow you down here, because I'm listening over here, nodding my head and smiling from ear to ear when you're talking about those pieces. And I was actually going to ask about the skateboarding principal. It's what you're known as, right? And I remember seeing some early pictures of you standing in a hallway with kids. You're holding the skateboard. There's graffiti on the wall that was intentional and beautiful behind you. And one of my first thoughts was like, well, that's not normal, but let's be real. Normal doesn't work for a lot of kids.
That's right.
And so question for you as a follow-up to that is, how do you balance, because as I said earlier, related to your own authenticity and just staying true to you, who you are, true to your own personal values in a world, in a school systems that often want to standardize everything. But we know there's no standard kid, right? That's not actually a metric that we can use. How can school and district leaders stay authentic to who they are and their core values, and let that be a part of their leadership when so many times they feel like they've got to walk in with a suit and tie, looking the same every way to fit a certain part in a world that's just not standard with kids that are not standard? What can leaders do to who they are?
Yeah, let me take you on that journey. When I first started out, man, as a leader, I felt like I had to wear a shirt and tie every day, man. I tried it and I wasn't feeling good and I wasn't feeling comfortable. And I kind of just thought, you know what, if I'm really going to be successful at this, if I'm truly going to be successful, I just got to be who I am. And I'd rather fail being the best version of me than trying to be somebody I'm not. Because, the way I feel about it, kids see through fake. Parents see through fake. And so it didn't mean that I just have to dress like a slob or run around in Lululemon all day long or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about, right? There were days where we would do bow tie Tuesdays. There was days where we would talk about dressing to the nines, and we'd all come in wearing suits and three-piece. We did it all, because I think there's a place and space for messages to be sent all the time. That there's appropriateness to dress up, there's appropriateness to dress down, there's appropriateness for everything. But for me, it came back to being authentically me, my messaging, my vocabulary. And when I looked around my building, I saw real estate, man. I saw real estate for vocabulary and expectation each and every day, even down to the graffiti that we put on the walls years ago. They were messages sent for kids to see their future, see their opportunity each and every day. And so there was always a reason behind something. Everything was a metaphor for greatness for kids and for my colleagues and the people that I served with. They were metaphors and messages to them just as much to the kids. But, the other thing is, sometimes, you get into these situations and, you're trying to build a bridge to respect, build a bridge to relationship, build a bridge to understanding, building a bridge to love, building a bridge to saying, hey, man, I'm meeting you right here. I'm not judging you. I see you. I'm about to walk right alongside you. I'm going to take you for where you're at. And we're going to run from there. Like sometimes another great example is we talk a lot about kids have got to pass exams and they got to get straight A's. Well, a lot of kids don't see themselves in that spot, like what about a kid that's a real solid student, real all-rounded student that's getting C's and B's? They're passing. They should be valued just as much. Or that kid that's getting a 60 and is right on the cusp of greatness. If I come up to that kid and I value that kid for their 60, that 60 can be a 65, can be a 70, that you just turn up every single day and drop me your best effort and we'll stack days of greatness, right? That's what that's about, man. That's what that's about. And so I wanted to create an environment where kids felt comfortable coming up to me and say, yo, Mr. Brewer, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. Mr. Brewer, this happened to me, man. I'm not at my best today. Mr. Brewer, this went down. I just got to put it out there. I wanted to create that environment for teachers, for parents, for students, to be able to, it was a neutral balanced environment where everybody could come and feel at one. And so, that's really part of the authenticness. I can't fake it, man. I can't be anything that I'm not. I've tried to, you try to look a certain way, say the right words, do that. Man, sometimes it's just not me. What you see is what you get. It's black and white. There's no sugarcoating it. Who I am at school is who I am in life, who I am with my friends, who I am with how I treat someone. Doesn't matter if I'm walking the street, down a narrow alleyway, or I'm front and center at the school assembly or prize giving, man. What you see is what you get. And once I figured that out, man, you could just see parents appreciated it, kids appreciated it, colleagues appreciated it. And I'll get back to this. It's not earth-shattering stuff, man. It's built on the right character principles of love and service, man. That's not anything that's rocket science. It's about love. It's about service. It's about leaning into people. It's about treating people with kindness, with love, about lifting people up. It's all those things. So, man, it just comes from the heart. Just comes from who I am.
I love it. And what an important message for kids, too, of just being true to who they are. It's one of the things I say to my own children literally every day, of stay true to who they are and not go somewhere and then have to turnkey to be somebody different, somebody else. People see right through that. I totally agree. So let me ask you one final question for you here. Do you want to jump back in? Go ahead.
I want to jump in. I think as adults, we have to help kids understand how hard life is today, man. Like, it's hard being a kid today. It's hard being a student today. None of that's easy. Like, when you think about social media, you think about devices and all these things that are happening around them. We did not have that, but we keep trying to replicate school as if it was 20, 30 years ago. The reality is it's not 20 or 30 years ago. We can't, the students of 20 to 30 years ago are not the students of today. And if that's the single biggest message that people get, they have an opportunity to make a difference for kids.
I love it. I love your passion, my friend. Truly. One final question for you. A question I always love to ask to every one of our guests at the end is simply this. We've got lots of listeners out there. We have district level folks and superintendents, principals, teacher leaders, and so on and so forth. If you've got one thing from the heart that you feel educators need to hear in this moment, what would it be?
Well, Tom, when I speak and I'm on stage, one of the most important things that I feel I talk about is right at the beginning. You matter. You matter. You know what? We live in a crazy world today where we wonder if we're giving enough, if we're working hard enough, if we're there enough. Am I staying long enough? Am I getting there early enough? I look on social media and I see someone doing this and that and this and that. Am I enough? Am I doing enough? I should be doing that. I should be doing this. Let me go over there and do that. Let me do more. Let me do this. You know what? Nah, you're enough. You turning up every single day and giving your heart and soul and the best of you, and you being the best version of you each and every day, and you living with your passion, your purpose, that's enough. That's enough. And don't let nobody tell you different. Don't put the power of your awesomeness in the hands of somebody else. Don't let no one steal your passion, your purpose, or your shine. You are enough.
My friend, your passion radiates from halfway around the world. And that's Hamish Brewer, everyone. Hamish, thank you so much for your time today. So good to see you. Keep making that impact, and thanks for sharing today.
Appreciate you, Tom. Thanks for having me, man. Blessings.